What's happening now across the Niagara frontier? News stories, old stories, stuff you know about and stuff you'd never believe. It's the Niagara Hub Soapbox with Craig Avery.
Well, good morning. Today we want to welcome Jeff Flach, who is the Republican candidate for the 6th District Niagara County Legislature. It's election season, and you threw your hat in the ring. What the heck are you thinking? Tell us, what's up with the county? What do you think you can get accomplished? What's up with the 6th District?
Well, what I was thinking, I've been back for 3 years. I've talked to many of the politicians. I've observed, the actions, and it's frustrating because we're not making progress nearly as fast as we should in some areas. In some areas, we're not making any progress at all. We keep tripping on mistakes. So I decided, all right, I'm going to stop talking and start doing. So.
Any reason why the county versus the city versus
state? So there's a huge field of city council candidates this year, and I know, both on the Democratic side and the Republican side, these ones that have come out, many of them done it for the same reason I'm running, is out of frustration, and they want to get things done, and they have good ideas, and if they get in office, they still need a relationship with the county. And that's something I noticed even before I came back when I was doing my research prior to retiring from the Army and returning home, is that this disjointed relationship between the county and the city. We are the most important city in the county. All right, and I would also say the 6th District is the most important district in the city as far as economic activity historically.
And all the district includes what?
Pretty much all the waterfront from down here, Ashland Avenue, the side of Ashland Avenue, all the way down the gorge, and then up to about 72nd Street, this side of the highway. And then it jets into the center city quite often to include like Packer Court and all that industrial area east of it. So when you look on the map and you look at the 6th District, almost the entire industrial complex of Niagara Falls is in that footprint. And then your tourist district is in that footprint. So we have our old, base and what should be our new base, all within that district. So the bulk of economic activity, if you want to lower the cost of government to the individual taxpayer, you really have to increase the tax base. And that's where you can get the most growth is out of this district. And you are seeing hotel growth mostly in this district. But that's not translating into improved quality of life for the citizen. You're not seeing huge revenue jumps in public revenue. So we've got to translate that. We have to retool how we look at government revenue. You look at other destination cities, they tend to improve the quality of life by gaining more revenue out of the tourist, therefore the taxpayer benefits. So the tourist subsidizes the taxpayer. Mm-hmm. Right now, I have a tourist-based business, and I'll tell you, our taxpayers are actually subsidizing the tourists, and we can't afford that. So we've got to change that. But going back to the county issue, we really got to have someone at the county level who can create a quality relationship and get the county focused on helping the city, because it's going to help the county in the long run. Mm-hmm. And my opponent doesn't seem to be that effective at convincing the county to help the city.
You got through the petitions and all that. What other issues are, now that you're in, for a while there with the petition thing, which is a whole other story.
Right, it's an administrative task, and it's grueling. It's beneficial. You knock on a lot of doors and people tell you their stories.
So then there's yourself and one other, and your opponent, as you call them, two people.
There's two people running for this office.
Okay. Yeah. Let's go with some of the issues that you're hoping to address, and then we'll talk the procedure of how do you get endorsed and all that kind of stuff.
Okay. So one big issue is lowering. So that's a big blanket, lowering the cost of government. One way to do this is to have economic development, increase your base, so you're getting more public revenue. One of the things that's been stifling our growth in Niagara Falls is the developer comes to town with a big project, want to do this. Like, great, find a piece of land. Here's a great piece of land that will work for me. Great, well, you need to remediate that, because decades ago we poisoned it, and you're going to change the use. So that's going to be, you're going to have to assess it. We'll give you a grant for that assessment, even though we already know it's poison and we've assessed it years ago. We've got updated assessment, so you have to do that because you want to build on it. But we'll give you grants. But now you've just told me I'm waiting a year or two for that process to complete before I even get to start remediating it. Once I remediate it, now I can break ground. Well, developers with that amount of capital behind them can go anywhere in the world, any market. And you just told me I've got to wait 3 or 4 years to even start using the capital I want to use here. Okay, I'm going to check out Miami. Yeah. You know, I'm going to go to Dubai, not Niagara Falls. Mm-hmm. So I believe we should start looking at making things shovel ready. The federal government and the state government have funds to clean things up. We got to aggressively go after that and remediate this land so that when a developer comes to town, we're not giving him the burden of cleaning up a mess from decades ago. Okay. Not only that, it's important for our own health. You start looking at health statistics. We have a lot of environmental diseases that statistically are off the chart as far as numbers per 100,000 population. And that's tied to this industrial scars that we have. So it's not only important to do that for economic development, it's important to do that for our own local population's health. So I want to do that. Crime is a major issue, particularly in the city. And you've got to bring in more resources. You know, I hear that we used to have impact teams and that they had an impact. But due to lack of funding, they couldn't sustain that.
The impact team would be
So it's like having the sheriff department, state police, and the local police all working together in a specific area, bringing a lot of attention to it where it's a high crime area. So that disrupts the criminal, right? So now the criminal's reacting to the police, which is very proactive, versus the normal reactive model of criminal does something, population calls the police, and police react to the crime, right? And the crime's already been committed. So these impact teams really disrupt that. And when it's multi-jurisdictional, when you find information out that has to do with, this guy is networked with a guy in North Tonawanda or Lockport or Lewiston, local police are like, no, it's out of my jurisdiction, what can I do? But when it's multi-jurisdictional, you have a police force that have a jurisdiction there. And there's federal grants. I mean, it takes 5 minutes on Google to see that these federal grants are available for this. Now, the federal grants generally focus, they have one on methamphetamine, if you're going to focus on curbing methamphetamine related. So it's not just you can only arrest people for methamphetamines, but it's methamphetamine focused to reduce the production of that and any related crime to people doing it. And then they had another one completely focused on opioids and heroin. But those are for state police, multi-jurisdictional. But what you need, but not like across the whole state, have to have your state police force say, we're going to do this all across the state. It is localized. So you got to have the state police as your partner to go after that grant money. But I think if we step up as a county sheriff and as a Niagara Falls, North Tonawanda, and Lockport police departments and approach the state police, say, we really want to do this here, we want to go with the grant money, let's form a task force. So now it's multi-jurisdictional, which meets the main criteria of this. Now let's go after that money.
And that is something that the legislature could affect.
Yeah, I think we could, because one, the county, we approved the budget for the county sheriff. We have to have discussions, so let's talk. And we sit in one body, have representatives from North Tonawanda, representatives from all over the county. Let's have this discussion on how we would like to attack this. So, and there's I can go on and on about how
right there that seemed to work for your first term of election.
Right, and there's a lot of easy, low-hanging fruit to lower the cost of government too, and start to form these relationships like purchasing. We buy paper, North Tonawanda buys paper, county buys paper, we all buy salt. There's a lot of things that we all buy, and because we're buying this much volume, we get a certain unit price. But if all of those pooled together, we'd be buying this much volume, and so the price per unit would be much smaller. So there's some very minor cost savings, but that means reworking the purchasing departments of multiple municipalities. And that scares people because that might mean jobs. Like if we erase all the municipal purchasing departments, all those jobs go away. Well, that's a hurdle, but that's not a reason not to have the discussion, and let's look at how we do that. At the end of the day, I don't want to see people out of work. Obviously, this area doesn't need unemployed people, but can we now start to get more out of these people? When their time gets freed up to go look at other things, they can go find other cost-saving measures. They can research more vendors for each product and see if there's a superior product at a lower price, which starts to create second and third order cost savings. So let's not just, we don't want to talk about this because of lots of jobs. No, let's talk about this. First, we're not firing anybody. What we're going to do is absorb their time, because that's already in the budget. We've already absorbed it.
Yeah.
We're going to get our cost savings out of the purchasing. And we're going to aim for second and third order cost savings by using this surplus time that labor has to go after other cost savings.
Cool. So you've got the time to do this new task in your life. You've got the interest. You've got some good ideas. You've certainly got a lot of things to work on in Niagara County and Niagara Falls. How does it happen now? You've got, and I always hear about, I'm endorsed by the Republicans, and I got conservative and independent and working families, and I never understood that. How does the whole endorsement thing go? And how do you got two guys running for office?
Yeah, that was part of my learning curve, right? So there's two guys running for office. There's 6 parties essentially tied to this office. The Republicans, the Democrats, the conservative and independents, which are on the right side of the political spectrum. And then you have the working families and Green Party, which tend to be on the left side of the political spectrum. Therefore, aligned with either Democrats or Republicans. And it's the same process. I had to go before the county committee and the city committee Republicans and talk to them, and they question me and make sure that my values and approach to problem solving are in line with theirs. My opponent had to do the same thing with the Democratic Party. He's been in office 26 years, so they already know where he stands on things. It's a little bit simple process. For example, he was on another radio show recently and is whining that they didn't, that the Conservative Party didn't invite him for a discussion, and he sent them stuff. Well, you've been in office 26 years. They already know where you stand, and they already know they don't support you. So I get that, and I didn't even attempt to do the Working Families Party because they're on the left. They're going to realize I'm on the right, and they know him and they are confident in him. Maybe I could have convinced them, but I just didn't see it was my time. But I'm not whining about the process. It's just part of the process. But now that that's all settled, and you get endorsed by various parties, you get the petition. You get a head start in the petition process. And you knock on door to door within your district for Republicans and get enough Republicans to sign on your petition. And then you're going to appear on the ballot in November. So Conservative Party, it's a much smaller party, much less signatures, but you got to go get so many signatures. Independence Party, same thing. Now when that's all over, then there's an opportunity to ballot process, which means I wasn't endorsed by the party doesn't want to see me on the ballot, but I still get the opportunity to go and convince the voters underneath the committee that I would do a great job representing you. And I got to get a few signatures. So it's a petition process again. And what that does is it opens up a second line in a primary. So all 4 minor lines this year for this office, the 6th District County Legislative Office, has a primary. So if you're in the Conservative Party on September 12th, you need to go and vote, and you're going to see my name as the endorsed candidate and then a blank line, and you would be able to write my opponent's name in there if you felt he would be a better representative of Conservative Party than I am. Same thing with the Independence Party. You'll see my name there. If you feel my opponent and you're an Independence Party voter, you can write his name in there. On the Working Families line, you're going to see his name there, and there'll be a blank line, and you'll be able to write my name in there as a Working Families voter and party member. You feel I would represent you better, you can write my name in there. And then on the Green Party line, there is no real local party structure. Neither of us were endorsed by the Green Party. Both of us did do the opportunity to ballot. So there's just blank lines. And so as a Green Party registered voter in the city, you have a primary this year. You won't see any names. You would have to write either my name or his name. You can write other names too if you want. But we've all done the process to open those lines up. So there's essentially 4 primaries for this office, even though there's only 2 people running.
Now, are there lots of people that would vote under the Green Party, or are there thousands of registered? How big are these parties?
All right, so the Independence Party is probably the largest of the minor lines in the city of Niagara Falls, and that's citywide. I'm not even quite sure of the numbers because I'm looking at the district, which is roughly 1/4 of the city. And there's a couple hundred within that district. The Green Party, the Conservative Party, all have close to 200 at least. That makes it very easy because you only need 5% of the registered party within the jurisdiction that you're running for office. So when you have like 100, you need 5 people.
Wow. So each individual person signing in could be quite important.
In the previous election cycles in the primary, a lot of those minor lines, only 10 or 11 people voted in the primary, making it very easy for a candidate to go get 8 friends registered in that party and go vote for them and win the line, essentially, even though they don't really represent the values of that party, what that party wanted.
And then on election day, whoever has the most parties, your name's going to be on that ballot.
You'll see the name more up on the ballot. And some people who, I don't fault people. I've been politically interested my whole life, so I'm always paying attention to who's running for what, where, and what decisions they're making. But sometimes I get very busy and I get a little out of touch. I know most people are busy and they're watching the kids, and I see when I'm walking in neighborhoods. My opponent's been in office 26 years. I've talked to Democrats. That's his party. They didn't know who their county legislator was. And they've lived here their whole life. So it shows you some people, they just got more important things to think about. So when they go in the voting booth, they vote their line. And so that's what happens with the minor lines a lot. In these local elections, you win minor lines, you win a huge portion of those people who are going to show up to the general election and vote because they just assume, well, I'm a Green Party guy, I have Green Party values, and my party vetted this guy, so check.
Mm-hmm. Cool. Well, that's interesting. So the primary is coming up September
12th.
About a month from now.
Yeah.
And you're going to continue knocking on doors and meeting people? Is that basically what you're
That's
doing?
really where it's at right now. Particularly me, I've been out of the area for a long time. I've only back 3 years, a little over 3 years. So yeah, people, they've heard of my opponent, even if they don't know that he's the county legislature. Once you tell, like when I ask the question, do you know your county legislators? Well, no, I really don't. Well, it's Dennis Virtuoso. Oh yeah, okay, I didn't put that together. Okay, they know the name.
Mm-hmm.
If I were to say Jeff Flach is your county legislator, they're like, never even heard of him.
No.
So I really got to get out there and get in the neighborhoods, and it's valuable because what people tend to do is vent. So it helps to reinforce what I thought was good ideas and priorities, and it helps me adjust them too. It's like, what, man, I thought that was a big deal, but not really. It was just in my block looking around, and in my perception of what the lanes I was looking at. But this much broader base across the city, I'm hearing other themes. So I think it's a healthy process knocking on the doors.
Cool. All right. Anything else you want to get out there, message-wise? Anything?
There's a lot of other minor policy things. Transparency. The county got a bad grade. It wasn't as bad as the cities, but they can improve. Like the minutes of the county legislative meeting until this January, you couldn't see them online. And you shouldn't have to FOIL stuff for a local government.
No.
There's no state secret. There's no security stuff going on. It's our information. It should be available. I noticed that, again, 4 or 5 years ago when I was doing my research, I could not find information on this area. And when I researched Niagara Falls, Ontario, I mean, the answers come up immediately, and the data that's available is in far more detail than I ever would have dreamed of. Whereas here, it's just not there.
Okay.
So transparency is another thing to work on. There's some costs associated, and that's what's blocked it in the past. We've got to buy a new computer system. We need a guy to make sure that the security's right when we dump everything onto a server. Okay. So let's budget that in maybe not this year's budget, but next year's budget. Let's set some money, because it's important.
Yeah.
And at the end of the day, it starts to create efficiencies again. When the 200,000 people who live in Niagara County get to look at the data and evaluate it, some are experts in some other things, and they work for companies who do this stuff or buy the same materials or do the same processes, and they'll look at that data and they'll say, I don't see why they're spending that kind of money on that, or I don't see why they're doing it that way, the better way to do it, and then they can volunteer that information, and we can have that discussion, we can all get educated and improve the efficiency of government. Improving efficiency means lower costs.
And the more your constituents can see what's going on and what's being spent, they can get to you and tell you what, because you're supposed to listen to them.
You are supposed to listen to them. You are representing the people.
Yeah, cool.
Yeah.
All right, so get out there. This is important right now, I think. In Niagara County, Niagara Falls, things are happening. I call it trickle up from Buffalo, but things are happening.
Yeah.
You see it in your business. I see it in mine. And now's a good chance to put the people in the government that you think can help, and this is important. So for a month until the primary, get to know your candidates. This is good to get to know you, and thanks for all your information. Good luck, Jeff.
That's great.
All right, buddy.